I got challenged to the hardest agent design that makes the Mecha Chameleon video look like a joke. I made an agent that can swap places with allies, has the shortest and weirdest smokes in the game, and has an ult that changes how everyone has to move. A player challenged me to this extremely difficult challenge, and while I didn't come out on top, I did make something absolutely bonkers.
I would say this is more of a Sentinel than a controller. The amount of micromanagement here would make Astra mains cry, but this could be really, really fun.
You know, I've been waiting for something like this to happen.
Well played, Gareth. You've done it again. You created a very balanced agent as always.
But enough stalling, let's get into how I turned chess into a Valorant agent. Right off the bat, it was stupid difficult because this is a game of Valorant, and this is a game of chess. They're polar opposites, and unless we're talking about chess FPS, there's literally no aiming, abilities, or real-time strategy, and if you didn't know, that's literally all Valorant is. And while I was trying to figure out what to do for the first 5 minutes, I ended up googling everything I could about special chess mechanics, its origins, and what the pieces symbolize for inspiration. While this really didn't do anything initially, it did help me come up with some personality for the agent, welcoming the Iranian powerhouse, Shah, to the roster, a chess prodigy, military strategist, and one of the leading minds in cracking the mysteries of Valorant's Mirrorverse. Shah is a controller that excels at abusing other controllers and has some of the most unique gameplay out of any agent. They have almost no damage in their base kit, but their ultimate packs a serious punch. Picture this, you're retaking site after breaking open the door in market, and you catch a duelist lacking, but before you could shoot, they suddenly disappear, putting a strange piece of terrain in their place, and before you know it, your team shoots the terrain, leaving a smoke, but as your team comes to you, there's a molly in B long, and you're forced to give up your angle because that same duelist swings from corner and almost takes your head off. Introducing Castle, Shah's first ability. They placed out a pawn in a short range of where they are. After it's placed, they could reactivate Castle at any time to instantly swap the pawn with the closest ally agent's position. When the 75 health pawn dies, it creates a pawn smoke and fire on the ground for 10 seconds. This ability is hard to use, but it has potential to create some insane stall or forces enemies to reveal their position by shooting it early.
Oh, so is that like kind of a Yori clone combined with Yori teleport? That's very aggressive for a controller.
I'm gonna let him cook here. I'm gonna let him cook. Okay, not gonna lie, 10 seconds, maybe a little bit long. Make it like 5 to 7 seconds.
Basically, we have Yoru clones set up across the map, plus they're basically gate crashes, so you can just go wherever you want. Sick!
Next, imagine you're a sentinel. You're playing with your team and you see nothing. Looking over at the minimap, you notice some weird smokes that have been dropped. And while you have util inside these smokes, you don't hear anything get tripped from the util. But enemies manage to plant right on your util for reasons that you can't understand yet. Introducing Smoke Army, Shah's second ability. Before the round starts, they buy smokes of varying shapes, sizes, and costs. All of these lasting 4.5 seconds. A pawn smoke is the smallest, but can be promoted to a queen smoke and resetting its duration whenever Shah walks into it. The knight smoke is definitely the weirdest. It places 4 identical spherical smokes an equal distance apart. The rook smoke is also a little strange. It makes a medium-sized plus sign. The bishop is a bigger and tilted version of the rook, making a large X smoke. And the queen is the biggest and most expensive, making a large spherical smoke.
Multiple smoke sizes? That's gonna get so confusing to counterplay against. Could get some tricky spots though. That could be hilarious. Just swapping smoke sizes willy-nilly, dodging darts and stuff. Especially with smoke charges that short. That's kind of cool.
Pawn is a 50 smoke. Okay, very small smoke. Okay. Knight is a decent smoke. What the hell is that, queen? My goodness. Okay. Alright. Right. So basically we have a post-nuclear experience. I like that. I like that. I like that. We
Now let's move on over to one of the highest skill ceiling abilities in Valorant. Imagine you're a controller and you smoke off mid so the 20-0 jet doesn't snipe you from halfway across the map. But then as you look at your minimap, you notice that the smoke mid has moved. Looking over to check again, you see that it has in fact moved, and blam! You get sniped. Introducing Passant, Shah's signature ability. On a 50-second cooldown, they can target a chunk of the map and move it up to 6 meters in any direction. Any smokes in the area are moved in the direction of choice and are now Shah smokes.
So we basically are able to rob their smokes, turn them into Astra black holes, and just ship them wherever we want. So we're basically exporting.
And this is a two-parter because Shah's passive is Cloudy Smokes. Any Shah smokes disable set utility inside them until the smoke fades. This means placed Astra stars can't be popped until the smoke fades. Veto trip doesn't trigger inside the smoke. KJ turret doesn't see anything in the smoke, and so much more.
Oh, okay, so it's got like a fire suppression-esque kind of vibe going. That's neat. I like that.
You know, I've been waiting for something like this to happen. Like, if we need to go through a smoke and they place a chamber trip in it, we can place a smoke on it and go through. Like, that's so good. Or a KJ bot, a veto trip, Cypher. I don't know, would Cypher trips be disabled for this or no?
Huh? So a controller. This guy can be a lurker basically. Cause look, this guy, you send him an alert. Oh no, a Cypher trip, smoked. Oh no, a complete Thorn's sheer wall, smoked. Just absolutely going rid of. Oh no, a neon with overdrive coming up, smoked. Absolutely, I love it.
As you rotate to defuse the spike they planted, you hear Checkmate. And before you know it, lasers cover the ground and form neat squares in a checkerboard pattern. As you push towards the spike, you're stung by the lasers, and just before you turn the corner, Shah unleashes a blast of Radianite energy, wiping you out. Introducing Checkmate, Shah's ultimate. For 8 points, Shah creates 5 meter by 5 meter squares on the entire map for 25 seconds. Laser walls are created on the edges of these tiles, and anyone who touches them, including Shah himself, takes 25 damage. During Checkmate, Shah can recast his ultimate twice. The first recast lets them teleport anywhere in a nearby tile, dealing 100 damage to all enemy agents inside and dropping the laser walls. For 15 seconds, Shah is unable to recast Checkmate, but after that time, they can teleport anywhere in a nearby tile again, dealing 100 damage and putting the laser walls back up for the remaining duration of Checkmate.
Let's stop right there. I like that ultimate design. That's pretty peak, honestly. Very, very, very unique. It would be tough to balance because, like, is this blink? Is this instant? If I'm carrying close, do I have time to run switch if they're teleporting in, or do I just get smited down if I haven't bought shields? Speaking of shields, does this damage ignore shields? But like, regardless of that, this is pretty dang peak. I like the uniqueness of segmenting the map a little bit more. I would say this is more of a sentinel than a controller. The amount of micromanagement here would make Astramains cry, but this could be really, really fun. Nicely done. Well played, Gareth. I like this. This is unique.
I'm not gonna lie, I would like to play this character if it was ever made. Kabam!
Right. So basically, as soon as round starts, pop your ultimate, immediately beeline it to A side. You're gonna say plant in this box specifically, and if you hear anyone have that sort of, bing on the spike, if they get there before dying, of course, the 25 damage really eventually catches up. You can just, checkmate, dead, deleted. Sick!
And that's Shah, a counter-controller with some of the most unique space control and mobility in the game. His main focus is creating question marks for sentinels, and it's a lurker's best friend. His wide variety of smokes makes him a great asset to any team that wants to counter heavy util setups. That being said, his super short smoke duration and weird smoke shapes make him severely lack at being a true controller, and mollies, drones, and honestly any activated utility counter his biggest strength. But at the end of the day, he is one of the best agents for tactical geniuses that want to flex their map knowledge. Comment down below and let me know what I should turn into an agent next, and let me know how long I have to make it. A player also said that I should do Steve from Minecraft, Crazy Dave from PvZ, and I also want to do Akuma from Street Fighter, but whatever you guys want to see, I will absolutely do it first. And for all the people interested in the game and character design process, stick around because we're getting into that next. So honestly, when making Shah, I was stuck for most of the time because chess is the polar opposite of Valorant. There's no aiming, there's no abilities, there's no real-time strategy, and no team coordination. Despite this, I looked up special chess mechanics to try to get the juices flowing. I knew about castling and passant, but I wanted to see what else there was. I ended up doing castling first because A, it's easy to understand, B, it's a nice bacon saver, and C, it has a huge skill ceiling. Turning it into Valorant was actually super easy because we could just increase the range and boom, we've got a budget waylay refract. But there was a couple problems. First, if you're swapping places with an ally, is that not just throwing you into danger? Like if your duelist gets into sight, you swap to save them, but now you're in the line of fire, what happens? Needless to say, this had to change ASAP, and after a few minutes, I decided to make it a two-parter where you place down a pawn, you could target an ally, and then using the ability, you swap the pawn and the ally. But then another issue arose. You're standing still looking at the minimap and making sure that your ally doesn't go too far from the pawn. And this means you're giving up map space because you're standing still and you're not doing anything or even holding any angles, which isn't really exciting and breaks two of the core pillars of Valorant gameplay. So I had to change it again. I ended up making it what it is now. You place down your pawn and the closest agent gets swapped when the ability is used. This gives it a really high skill ceiling because you're forced to position correctly, otherwise you'll misuse it. Adding in the volley and pawn smoke gave it some nice oomph because as Shah, you can take some damage to upgrade the pawn smoke into a queen smoke and resetting the duration, making some nice area denial and util denial. However, it's not perfect. This ability has a super high chance to be misused. While that's not really a bad thing per se, the skill floor is way too high for my liking. If I could change it, I would make it so that the farthest agent gets swapped. This way your duelist is encouraged to push up and you don't need to rage at your team for getting too close to the pawn and taking the swap on accident. This also sets up for the game loop that I thought of earlier, where you place down the pawn, get your duelist to dash over to a choke point, get as far as they can, then Shah swaps them, puts the pawn where defenders need to flood from, and now if defenders don't catch it early, then they reveal their location by destroying it and either have to wait for the molly to fade or push through and take some chip damage. But if you misuse it and the defense kills it early, you've essentially wasted a molly and 300 credits worth of smokes. Also, another note in hindsight is the molly and smoke should absolutely be reduced to like, what, 8 seconds if not less, because 10 seconds is a long time, especially with Shah being able to refresh the smoke and molly duration by walking into it. The time should be lowered because it could be reliably doubled if Shah is positioned correctly. Next up, we've got the smoke army, the variety of smokes with chess piece shapes. This one went through a few iterations, but it all boils down to me wanting to add the chess pieces in some way. Initially, I wanted to give them a bunch of different util and give them 4 util slots, which they could put chess pieces into and use throughout the round. But there's a few major issues with that. A, now there's too many keybinds for the player to get used to, and playing Shah requires you to rewrite how you interact with the keyboard to play him, let alone master. And B, now it's too weird for enemies to keep track of how to counter you. Valorant has very clear counters on how to beat agents. Like, how do you beat Arena? Use util to make their duels unfair. How do you beat Cypher? Break their util and force them to rotate into unsafe space. How do you beat Neon? Pray Riot nerfs them again. There's very clear ways to beat every agent in Valorant, and Shah has to abide by this as well. If he's got 6 different pieces, all with different costs and functions, and you don't see what he took before the start of the game, it creates a steep learning curve for the Shah player, their team, and their opponents, because to play with, play, or counter Shah effectively, you force everyone in the game to learn what each of these pieces do, how they can be used, and their limitations. The healthy alternative is to just make their smokes different shapes and make it chess themed. I turn them into the patterns in which the pieces move and ordered them by power, pawn being the weakest and queen being the strongest. The promotion didn't come until much later on into the process, but that's because I wanted to make a controller who's a counter controller and a counter sentinel. His smokes would disable util in the area, but then I thought it was too broken, so I switched it to only be set utility. This means that if a sentinel is careless with util, leaving it on the site, running around willy-nilly, this agent punishes you because if you see the smoke on the minimap, now you're forced to consider, did someone lurk past my KJ turret while it was disabled? Was it a fake because they thought I was thinking that now, so I wouldn't check if someone is lurking? Maybe they thought that I thought it was a fake, so now I should go check because maybe someone lurked? And as some heavy drawbacks, the smokes only last about 4.5 seconds each. Initially, this was purely so that planting against Astra isn't so terrible, but it's also really good for duelists, because with the way everything is right now, entering onto his site as a duelist is a terrible experience. You run into 3 set flashes, 2 sets of razor vines, and have a chamber pop your head off and use their TP to get out for free. This agent forces you to either use your util early or change your setups, because it only affects set utility and not active utility. This means that if you're a duelist and run into a Vice setup, Vice now has to pop the thorns early if they think you'll smoke, or change their game plan on the fly and use the thorns in different places. The obvious counter being that you put your util in new places or just wait 5 seconds for the smokes to drop. The promoting came after because I knew that I wanted to add it in, but I really wasn't sure how to. I ended up making it so that Shah would walk into a pawn smoke to create a queen smoke, and then this could create about 250 credits worth of smoke for free, which is absolutely massive, but because of the size of the pawn smoke, Shah either has to make the smoke not as effective by placing it in a safe spot, or risking his life to run over to the pawn smoke and make it a queen. Resetting the duration also came after to make it more worth to promote the smoke. This also works on castle, to where if it's time to write, Shah can promote the pawn smoke into a queen smoke and extend the duration of the smoke and molly to have the longest molly in the game, but doing so makes him take some damage and potentially puts him in a risky spot. Next up was another fun one, passant. Also a super tough ability to come up with because it works really well within their kit, and the overall ethos is to make more unique game plans. Side tangent, but Valorant feels kind of bland with everyone throwing the same util and smoke lineups, and while that's fine to be rewarded for a cool lineup, there's something to be said for switching up smokes. Passant is basically made to counter this, because if you smoke the same way and use your smokes in the same way every single time, then he can completely use it against you. Like if you're lurking in a corner with a shotgun and a smoke, Shah can move the smoke as their ally turns the corner, and now you're crouched out in the open with a judge and get blasted. But if you put the util behind the smoke and you're always doing that, then Shah can push the smoke over onto the set util and make it disabled for the duration of the smoke. But the inverse is also true. If you anticipate that Shah is going to move your smoke in a certain way, you can place the smoke in the same spot, have someone play where the new smoke location will be, and now Shah's team has a false sense of security. This has nothing to do with pawns passing and killing each other, but I genuinely wasn't sure what I could do for his signature. Something I would change though is moving agents. Initially, I had it to where any agents caught in the area would be moved up to 2 meters in the pushed direction, but after some thinking, I decided to get rid of it because it's kind of dumb and it doesn't really fit with Shah's whole thing of countering smokes and utility. Finally, his ulti. This one was super fun and is genuinely one of my favorite ults that I've ever made for any game character I've designed. This easily took the longest to design because again, chess is super different from Valorant and I could not figure out how to do this for the life of me. Thankfully, I remembered that Shah in Persian means king, and that kind of gave me a brain blast when I thought of making Shah move like a king and making lasers to heavily punish late rotates or reward Shah for thinking ahead. Initially, they could recast it once every 10 seconds and the laser walls would automatically turn on and off every 5 seconds for 5 seconds. I decided to make it not this because while it's cool and kind of simulates turns, it's just meh. Checkmate gives interesting map control because it's soft control. Any agent can freely rotate and move through these walls and they're not concussed, but they do take some damage. The king movement was also really cool because it essentially makes Shah immune to his own damage, and to counter it, the laser walls turn off, so using it at the right time is absolutely necessary. Then adding in the burst of 100 damage also makes it so that these checkmate situations are much more likely. Like if Shah corners you behind a wall and you have no idea where he is, but then he teleports past the wall and onto your space, you take 100 damage and you are more or less guaranteed to lose that duel. Now that being said, this ulti isn't perfect. While its ult is really cool, fits the theme, is mechanically sound, and fits the mechanical theme, it's way too overpowered. The laser walls should be changed so that instead of making you take 25 damage if you move out of the square, they should be laser trips that you can jump over. So now you can rotate silently by taking damage or going really slow, or have to jump over lasers a bunch. In both cases, it's still soft map control from before, but it adds much more counterplay and different options the players could choose when facing his ult. And finally, ult points. 8 points for this should genuinely be a crime. It should easily be 9 if not 10. Personally, I'm leaning towards 10 because this lasts for a long time and has the potential to hit all 5 members of the opposing team and heavily swings the next 25 seconds in Shah's favor. But you guys be the judge. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know what I should design next and how long I have to design it. Feel free to check out some of the other videos as well.